Hello, how's it going? Nice and hot, as if I needed any more caffeine. I've been up since about 5:30 this morning. Just woke up, probably from all the tea from yesterday, um, and just sort of been relying on the caffeine to keep me going. I suppose if I really wanted more caffeine, I'd switch to coffee, but don't like it. So, one of the things that was on my mind while I was in bed, awake at around 5:30 was what does it mean to be happy? And does happiness really mean winning? You know, uh, we often refer to, happiness as maybe winning at the game of life. And I wonder if that's the best frame for winning, or for happiness. Um, so, I mean, if you would say that winning is being the best at something, um, then probably most people will never be happy. And I think it's probably possible for most people to be happy. Um, it probably requires a lot of hard work, a bit of luck, but I think we all can do it. So I often think about this is so if winning would probably only make sense in a term in these terms of happiness if you have goals and directions that you want to follow. Um, So, I mean, you're going down a path and you want to win, you go down this path in life. So, like a career. So, you're advancing in your career. Or if your goal is to have $1 million in a bank account, it's actually really measurable, isn't it? And so, you win by winning, getting closer, making progress towards that goal. And so, each step you've achieved, essentially, you've won a battle in the war. Or I like to think of my life as not so much as a game that I win. It's more like a season that I win. So baseball season's just starting up, and in the baseball season you have 162 games, which is quite a lot. Too much, I would probably say. But you play 162 games. You're playing for the World Series. You want to get to the playoffs, and then you want to get to the World Series, and you want to win the World Series. So it's nice to have these individual wins because that's a bit of progress towards your overall goal is getting to the World Series. However, you can't win every game. There's 162 games, and uh, you're going to slip up. You're going to have a bad game. You're going to sometimes you don't have a bad game and the other team just beats you. Sometimes you have a terrific game and the other team you know by the umps just totally blowing a call and just throwing the whole game in the other team's favor. Or sometimes you just give it all you got and you get a bit of bad luck. That's all. I mean, so some days some people are just better than you at others. Um, so you can't really. I don't think that you see it as winning. It's just like they're minor setbacks on the way to the championship. So, I often get frustrated with people who talk about terms like happiness, fairness, or justice, or anything along those lines. Very abstract and vague terms. I get frustrated when people talk about those terms without defining their terms because you can argue about definitions, but uh, it's almost like speaking another language. I just don't understand Chinese. I don't know what the words mean. I don't know what the logic of the grammar is. Uh, it's just and the word order, or I don't even know what the little letters or ideograms that they use mean. I'm totally lost. I cannot play that game. And so if we speak, if you speak French, you might say, oh, well, this word. So there's a word in French called that says actuel. It looks like actual. It's not exactly the same thing. Actual in English means real, in reality, but actuel in French means current or something going on right now. So you have to define these terms in order to say, oh, okay, we're not exactly talking about the same thing. But as long as I understand what you're talking about, we can talk about it, and maybe I'll even use your term. So if you have the wrong definition of what makes you, of what happiness is, what it means for you to win, you won't win. You're not playing your game. You have to play your game, decide what the whole point of the game is, and then figure out what the rules of the game are, and then go find out, what your equivalent of the World Series trophy or the World Cup, whatever prize at the end of it is, the whole purpose of the season or the tournament. You figure out what that is, and then you figure out how to go get it, and then you go out and get it. So you will have setbacks in this. I've been there too. So if anything that you can achieve, let's say like this, you're trying to become fluent in a foreign language. It's hard. It's very hard. Even a language that's relatively close to English, like French. A lot of the words are the same. They even use English words, but a lot of the words are sort of what you would call cognates. They look similar, they sound similar, and they have a similar meaning, sometimes the exact same meaning. Um, so you just got to go out there and figure out, what it takes to become fluent in the language. You need to learn grammar. You need to learn pronunciation. You need to learn vocabulary. You need to learn sort of idiomatic language, things that aren't exactly straightforward. You need to learn exceptions to rules. You need to be comfortable with it. You actually have to retrain your brain on how to function, because word order often gets all screwy. And that kind of, I'll give you an example. If you learn German, it will hang on to bits of the word until the end of the sentence, while we in English will just plow through it directly. So if you say, I have gone to the store today, it will say, I have to the store today gone, I think, if I remember correctly. So they have to hold on to that gone all the way into the end. So you have to use a sort of memory space in your mind to hang on to that in order to finish the sentence. Likewise, it's a little bit harder for Germans to learn English, because then they have to stop using that space there and start thinking more in the present rather than sort of in the future. There's a fascinating thing about languages is it totally uses different parts of your brain, different techniques, and it can be very tiring to speak another language. So anyway, the point is that you find out what it takes to do this. You find out all the different areas, and you try to be as good as possible in there. And it's very difficult to say when you're fluent. You could be better in some areas. You might be just an absolute wizard in vocabulary. You might be a grammar guy. You might be able to learn expressions, but you gotta get all of those levels up. And if you're good in all those things, but your pronunciation's terrible, sorry, you're just not fluent. You have to have a high level in all of those in order to be considered fluent. So that's just a parallel to anything. So this means that you just can't. You have to find out what your definition of success is, figure out how to do it, and then go do it. So there's, basically, divining what you want, figuring out how to get it, and then having the tenacity to go ahead and do it, because there will be setbacks. So this often means that you can't let other people set your goals for you. You can't always take advice from other people, because ultimately you bear responsibility for following it or not. You can't just say, well, you can't blame your coach if you didn't follow his instruction. And even if you do follow the advice or the instruction, the advice might be bad, and you have to decide whether or not the advice is worth following or not. whether it's completely true or something like that, or you can kind of make adjustments in the advice, a little bit of advice, and then maybe add it to another little bit of advice, and then you have maybe a whole pile of advice. On the other hand, you have to. The thing is that you bear responsibility for everything that goes wrong, but you also get all the benefit. Nobody actually benefits from that. They might benefit vicariously, or they might be happy for you, but they did not actually achieve anything. You're the one who achieved it. So you just got to take advice with a grain of salt, because ultimately, you think about it, some people really do want to help, and they're giving good advice. Uh, and then there are some people who really do want to help. They're well wishers, but they're just talking out of their asses when they're giving advice. And then there are some people who are really malevolent, and they want to control you, or bring harm to you. And so those different types of people, you have to kind of be able to distinguish one from the other, and then figure out what to do about them. Some people are really messed up and want to see you fail. Although I don't think it's that common, but they're out there. There are little demons out there trying to trip you up. And also, I would say, like, for me, I've often, a lot of this is out of experience. This is almost like bad advice from me, is that you shouldn't be too rigid in what you define as success. Or I would say, actually, because ultimately success is about making you happy. You have to find out what makes you happy. And that's not something that you can be super logical about. You're just like, what is going to make me happy? You kind of have to have an honest conversation about it. And it's not a very rational conversation. It's just like, what makes me the happiest? When I'm doing it, when I'm done with it, when I get back to it, when I step away from it, what by and large makes me happy? And so you kind of have to figure what that is. The hard part is actually figuring out what to do. And interestingly, there are many ways to get to that place. So I'll give you an example. So one goal that a lot of people have is financial independence. That's a very common goal. It's actually a very good thing, because it makes you not only financially independent, but you don't have to suppress your ego. You don't have to suppress, although ego suppression is probably a good thing in most cases, but sometimes your ego you have to use your ego as a tool rather than some kind of thing that controls you. But in the case of like financial independence, is if you're financially dependent on somebody, there is that you're almost like chained to a job, or you're chained to a living situation. And it's nice to have people who help you out, but it's nice not to need them. It's nice to have, but it's better not to need them. And so if you're looking to get financially independent, I mean, there are many ways to get there. I mean, you could win the lottery. You could just have really good timing in your investments, come up with a really good idea for the marketplace, invent something, come up with a company, come up with a service. You could be really good at sports, and then just make millions of dollars throwing a ball around in a child's game. It sounds fun to a lot of people, but it's a lot of hard work. You're basically turning it into what is a game into a really just, that's what you're doing with your life. Every waking minute of your day is thinking about baseball. I don't like to do that. I can only concentrate on a game maybe 3 or 4 nights a week, and they play every day. So, so all of those ways that I mentioned are ways to make it rich, but it's not just one of them that works. And one of them, some of them just won't work for you. I mean, you kind of have to figure out play to your strengths, avoid what makes you really uncomfortable, and then go for it. But as far as like what to do, I would I don't really have any advice for you specifically, because I don't know what makes you tick. But one of the things you learn as an economist is basically figuring out how to multiply whatever it is by the odds. So, like, say for example, if you want to win the lottery, you got to realize the odds of winning the lottery are slim to none. The benefit of winning the lottery, the payoff is really good. But if you multiply the odds by the benefit, it's so minuscule that it isn't even worth the price of a ticket. It's nice to play, but you're actually, most of the price of the ticket that you're playing is for the hope. But probably 9 million times out of 9,000,001 times, you're going to lose. And so I don't know that that's a really rational decision, especially to do with your money. It's okay every once in a while, but it's a terrible way to spend your money on a regular basis. So I'd play the odds. What do you have the best chance at succeeding? And plus, like, what makes you happy? So I would say that winning is basically fulfilling your objectives before you die. And the sooner you achieve them, then, you've accomplished something with your life. You're not just sitting there, as Thoreau said, the vast majority of men lead lives of quiet desperation. And sadly, that happens to all of us at some point. I think we are either conditioned to be afraid to go at what we're after, or we're so risk averse that we avoid the pain, and which is, the pain is more painful than the winning is pleasurable. And unfortunately, we just get frozen up in that. But I think, if you do get lucky, or you do have the perseverance to go ahead and do what you want to do and win, the problem is that, that's really good, but you have to start all over again because you won. So in terms of sports, you won this season, but you have to start all over and you have to play next season. And so you basically have to decide what the next game is. So if you earned $1 million, what's the next move? And earn another million? Okay. The game might not be the same. First million's not probably the same as the second million, but that's another way to go. Or you can do something totally different. Now that you've made millions of dollars, maybe you want to go, I don't know, do something for fun. I don't know, but you have to kind of, this is coming from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which basically is a pyramid. You start off with the basic stuff you need, like food and shelter, and you work your way up through a sense of community, sense of love. And then at the top is sort of this term called self-actualization, which not everybody gets to do. But you have to get the basic needs first before you can be self-actualized. Once you reach that top of the pyramid, you go back down, and then you have to climb back up, and then you go back down, and basically that's the rest of your life, is climbing up the pyramid and falling back down. So, I would say that if you do win and you are in this sort of going back up and down on the top of the pyramid to the level below, you still are at an advantage over most people because you've already learned how to win one game. Do you know what it takes to win something? You've learned how to take advice, how to play the game either through trial and error, or somehow you watch somebody else's example. So now you know how to play the next game. That you either play the same game over again, or you've come up with a new one. You've learned something along the way. So I, through many failures, have started learning things, and I'm finding a little bit of success. Not as much as I'd want, but who can say that they're having too much success? Like who's frustrated with too much success? So anyway, that's all I've got for today, and I'll see you later.